Well, this is Revit. And if we want to create things in Revit, this is the first screen that you see. Those are elevation marks. That means that if you click on east, north, south, or west elevation, you will see everything that click here. Okay, so that's the west elevation. If you click north, that's the north elevation. There is nothing yet. But everything that you draw should be within those elevation marks, because otherwise, if you click on the east and west and south elevation, you won't see it. You can always move this, and that's another interesting feature in Revit. This is the crop region. Here you can hide it or show it, and here you can crop, or if you crop everything that it's out of the crop region, it's not showing up. But if you don't do this, you can see everything that it's out of the crop region. Okay, so this is the basic thing that you have to understand in Revit. That you have a crop region, you can extend the crop region. So if the drawing is bigger than the original distance between elevation marks, you have to move it, and then you have to make sure that everything is within the crop region, so that if you decide to crop view, you still see what you have here. And with Revit, we can start by drawing 3D elements. If we draw a wall in plan, like this, if we click here a 3D view, you see that we have created a wall. Okay, it's a 3D object. Or we can select, delete, or we can start working with lines. If you select here model line, we can draw lines. But then if we look at the 3D view, it's not a 3D object, it's a line. How can we turn a line into a solid volume? There are different ways to do that. So we can start by using this component. If you select place a component, you can place a family. I don't know if there's a family. Yes, so all the families we have here are trees or whatever, okay? Or furniture. So that's very useful, but we are not doing that yet in this introduction to Revit. Okay, so this is a tree. Delete. Today we're going to use component model in place. So that means that we are selecting a shape, and then we are assigning a volume to that shape. So if we select this model in place, you have to select a category. So here we have all categories that we have in Revit: windows, walls, structural framing, roofs, whatever. I don't know, I don't mind. So first we are going to select the floor, for example, or, well, let's create a wall. And here you see that we have different options in terms of geometry, how we are going to work with this shape. The basic solution is always extrusion. So with extrusion, if we have a shape, then we give a volume to that shape. We can create a sketch in 2D, and then we can select it and create a 3D object. So we are going to do that, extrusion. We have already created that. You can draw here whatever you feel like. Imagine that you are drawing a basic shape like this, then you click OK. And now you can drag this and create a volume. Then you finish, and that's a volume. If we do it again, architecture, component, model in place, walls. You see that by default, you change the name. This is walls too, but you can edit your name here, shape. Here. You can create extrusion again. And now there's another interesting feature here. You can pick lines. So if you have drawn this before, you pick lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click OK. And again, you can control the volume here. Okay, so this is finish mode. So this is a solid block. How can I understand that this is a solid block? There's another interesting element here. It's the section box. See here, the section box. So with the section box, it's a box. And if you move that box so that you see the section, okay, so you see that it's solid. It's not void inside. So both elements, if I have a section here, they are solid. I can do the same like this, dragging this. So this is a solid element. So I have created a shape in 2 dimensions. Then I have created extrusion. And now I have a volume that it's solid. Can I do something like this with, so make sure that everything is, again, within the solid, the section box, or we're going to delete, not delete, but to hide the section box. Can we do something like this using other elements in Revit? We can. But now we have to, probably we need to understand the concept of levels. If you open one of the elevations, here we see the objects, you see level 1 and level 0. So by default, we have these levels. Depending on the units, in this case, I think the units are millimeters, but in your screen, you will have feet or inches or whatever, I don't mind yet. But here we have level 0 and level 1. There are 4,000 units, in this case, millimeters, from level 0 to level 1. You can always adapt the height of this element to the level. Okay. If we are doing this, now these 2 volumes have the same height because I have adapted the height of the volume of the extrusion to the level. But if I want to do the same, but I don't want to create a solid element, I want to create a void element. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to make this area larger. So in architecture, we can start creating a floor. Okay, so if you create a floor, the floor is on level 0. And you have this, by default, I have this floor, but I want you to use, I don't have a, yeah, because I have a lot of materials. Okay, I don't mind. I want you to use a line, so you can create another shape here, like this. Finish. And now you have a floor. On the 3D view, there is a floor here on level 0. Okay. Now we're going to create walls, and then we're going to create a roof. Okay, so on level 0, I can select walls. Again, I'm selecting any wall, wall without any materials. This one. Probably you will have other, because I'm using an existing drawing, so probably you will have other walls there, but I don't mind any wall. And now we can start drawing walls, or we can select this, we can pick lines. The most important thing is that the base level is level 0, and by default, sometimes Revit does weird things. So we want to go from level 0, and the top constraint is level 1. If we only have 2 levels, okay, so this is up to level 1. And then all these base offsets and all that stuff, it should be 0. We have a base offset and the top offset. So make sure that the base offset is 0, top offset 0, a base constraint level 0 up to top level 1. Okay, so if we do this and we select, if we select one, the okay, I'm going to select this wall. Then I select these pick lines and I can pick those lines. And you see that I have selected, or I have created walls. And on the 3D view, it's not a solid element. We have walls here. And this is empty. And finally, I want to create a roof. Okay, so if I'm on level one, you see everything that we have done so far, the solid elements, and now I'm working with this wall. So now I have to create a roof. Roof, again, any roof, pick elements, and now we can pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see this tiny triangle? This is the slope. I don't want any slope. You see that here we have defined slope. So if we select all these lines and we don't want a slope, we want just a flat roof, that's it. And then I click OK. And I have this roof here. So on the 3D object, you see the difference between something solid and something created out of elements. If we apply the section box here, we can see that there's a space here. Okay, so we have a wall, we have walls, we have roofs, we have floors. And in this case, the elements that we have created like this, they are solid elements. Okay, so now if we are understanding lines, areas, and volumes, those are two different approaches in Revit. We can create something that is solid, we can create a solid element, or we can create elements made of floors, walls, and roofs. Okay. Today we're going to work with this option. We're going to work with the component model in place, because we want to explore some of the modeling tools, some of the basic modeling tools, but using volumes. We don't want to use walls and roofs yet. Well, I told you that there were two ways to do this, to create a volume. We can do this with a solid volume, or we can create this with out of elements, floors, walls, and roofs. There is a third way. So on level 0, I'm going to extend the crop region and the elevation mark. We can use this massing and site. If we use this option, we have this, the in-place mass. So with the option in-place mass, okay, again, by default, you can change the name of the mass we're creating. And as you can see, we have the same menu here. We can draw something, or we can pick lines or whatever. Let's use this, and let's draw something like that. Okay, so I have created this element. On the 3D view, you see that we have created this. It is a little out of the section box, so I'm going to move it in this direction. And now on the 3D view, okay, it's within the section box. So this is a 2D object made of lines. If I select all this, then I can create form. I can create a void or a solid form. I'm going to create a solid form. And you see that we can extrude this. It's the same as the extrusion. Okay, so if we move this arrow, if you see that now the level is highlighted, so it has the same height as the other volumes here. So this is a mass, and I finish mass, and I have something here that is, if you see, this is something transparent. This is solid, and this is transparent. What happens if we use the section box? If we use the section box, we have a section here, and apparently it's a solid. Okay, so if we create a mass, I created a solid element, but if I create a solid element out of masses, I can work with some interesting feature. If I use massing and site again, you see that here I can create a mass, or I can create roofs, walls, and floors. If I select wall and I pick this, you see that now I'm creating walls, the same walls that I have here. Okay, and if I select roof and I select this polygon, and now I can create roof. Okay, so there are 3 different ways. And now if I use the section box, you see that this is hollow. It's not solid. Okay, so there are 3 different ways to work with volumes here. We can create an empty volume out of floors, walls, and roofs. I can create solid volumes using this component model in place. Or I can create something that it's solid, but I can turn those elements into real elements like walls and roofs. I can't do that. If I select massing and site and I select wall, I can't select those elements. I can only select the elements that have been created with this option, with massing and site. Okay, so this is the first lesson. So now you should try to do this. So random shapes, I don't want you to create a specific shape. Try to do the same element or the same volume using the component model in place, using walls and roofs and floors, or using masses and then turning this mass into walls, roofs, and floors. Okay.